actor, so I can't speak on what I personally see. But heard a lot of Big Show, Kane, Austin. People have talked about the environment backstage. More people are more friendly. There's not as much hustle to get that big spot that everybody's going for. Different environment in that perspective. I think that's also bad in it because at one point people were fighting each other, so to speak, really hard to get their spots. In these days, it's not as much. It's still too friendly for that former environment.
Well, and I can understand why. Like, what did it really benefit with constantly people being cutthroat and trying to screw each other over? I mean, there's one guy, brother, who was known for holding each other down, and I think it's a perspective of like rising tides raising all ships. But one of the things that, and I do think of some of it with people do think it's kind of out of their control because WWE scripts things so heavily where they don't really have much influence at all. The only person that really seems to have influence on what he does is John Cena, and even then, he's not even really part of the main roster as he was before.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's times changing. John Cena, he found a different opportunity. It doesn't mean he's retired. Obviously, you didn't say that, but I'm just saying it just picks and chooses basically, or whenever they tell him, hey, we need you to come here to do a show, or depending on schedule. It's really, I know you know this, but
in Cena, I'm sorry, you just made me think of something else with Cena. In Cena, I don't think would ever be as big of a star as he was if it wasn't for the PG era and being able to be accessible to kids.
Yeah, he was part of obviously the ruthless aggression, and also part of the PG era. Obviously, with his PG style character was different than it was in the earlier 2000s, mid 2000s. So it's a different character, different. He wouldn't have been if he was that Doctor Thuganomics. If I can spit it out right, Thuganomics.
Doctor Thuganomics.
There we go. It wouldn't have worked, 5 years later, especially with his way he evolved it. So I think work in different eras. Like I got the same with music, and then the way you intake it, and the way it gets put out, and then the way it's being spun out. So different business with music and obviously movies. So it's the business and the way you get the product is a lot different too, and that involves change. And sometimes change is not as good. Sometimes it is, and I have there's going to be negatives across the board. There was negatives back in the 90s too. There's a lot of people who look at, we going back to the obviously the Attitude Era. Let's just call it that. And it wasn't perfect back then either. There was negatives about it too. Sometimes the product stunk back then too. There was things about it that wasn't too good. It's like, good Lord, that was terrible. You look at things today, Lord, it's terrible. Yeah, some things are good. The writing was different. Need different writers, different ideas. But yeah, do I like it a little more? The excitement back in the 90s, yeah, there was more excitement, but there's things that just wasn't that good either.
Yeah, it was different back then, and I would never. My frustrations with the PG era are more so tied to the writing, and
oh yeah,
I don't think
character development too.
Character development, which is kind of in line with the writing. We've had a couple characters that come out that's probably been one of the best, some of the best characters that WWE has ever produced, and I would put that with like the Fiend. I think is up there as one of those characters. But one of the things that people seem to forget, especially about the PG era, is PG era created like people like John Cena, but it also created CM Punk. CM Punk was around in the PG era, and people constantly called for him to come back. And he was able to work within the levels of PG to draw attention to him. So it's obviously not the rating that's causing the problem. It's the writing that's causing the problem.
Oh, yeah. It's a big problem with the creative team and how they're putting out the storylines and presenting the product. And, I can understand that, yes, when you have a creative writer not giving you the right storyline or right promo. It can affect, obviously. But, I don't know how much people really speak up. Who does speak up on? I know there's a few guys I could probably name off that would, and girls. But it's more or less, hey, this is not going to work for me. We have heard it before. Even going to John Moxley, Dean Ambrose back then, just stating one name. Some of their product, some of the promos, it was just not good at all, and then we can hear that even this day. And so it's a big big problem with the ratings and the viewerships that's taking interest in what's going on. Like I said, once again, character development. There's not characters that we see that's really coming out. Who's who? Who is who?
Mm-hmm.
There's not much going on with that. So, it's hard to call it soft in so many ways, but I can understand both ways. But being soft, yes, it is. It is very soft in different ways, absolutely, but there's different aspects to it too.
Right, and the idea that it's the people that are portraying it is completely wrong. And you kind of highlighted this before. A lot of people said that we should see the Attitude Era come back, and it won't. And you're right in that aspect, but Attitude Era, you have a nostalgia for Attitude Era. There's a lot of things you can find on the network that are terrible.
Oh yeah,
terrible.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I said. There's things that they did actually that was terrible. It stunk. Right. I mean, I guess what I mean said by being soft is just like there's you can't come off and name so many certain stars. I mean, you could. I mean, but how many of them can be thrown into a main event spot just like that? And it's like being pulled off so well with the creative and everything all in line. And they're not going to do it because they don't believe in, Shinsuke can be the main event, at Backlash. Are they going to pull it off? Are they going to make it look good? Or is the writing going to be great? Can Shinsuke, I mean, I must say he couldn't do it. Are they going to go about it the right way? That's more or less it. It's not so much saying that Shinsuke is weak. It's just more or less, it's like I said, it's just how they go about it. That's more
it is.
Issue. That's what I mean by it. It's not Shinsuke is a tough performer. He's proven himself. He competed in Japan. Japan's rough.
Right, and that's the thing is a lot of people that call for the PG era to end, and there's some things I don't like about maintaining PG, but that's just me. I understand it's a business, but it's not going to fix all the problems. And people that have the what they call it, the rose-colored sunglasses or something like that on, in regards to being nostalgia for the Attitude Era, and I can understand that nostalgia if that's where you joined. I have nostalgia for old WCW, but it's not going to change the fact that the writing is terrible. There is sometimes during Attitude Era that the writing is terrible, but the only way that they can possibly fix this is by giving a little bit more freedom to the people portraying the characters, being able to cut their own promos, while also being you can't say these things and here's why, and just lifts off, this will get us in trouble with them, this will get in trouble with them, this will get us in trouble with them. They can absolutely make it work in the PG realm, and I think the PG realm is, for a business level and for WWE to stay viable, as years go on, especially to hook in kids, it's not going to go anywhere.
No, that was absolutely going to. Not with a creative team going on now. You look at Attitude as well. There's a certain creative writer. We brung up his name a few times, at least a few times, obviously.
I guess you're talking about Bro.
Yeah, Bro. A lot of people. He had a filter. Filter was Vince McMahon. He had Vince McMahon had a different mind frame back then, as well as there's other creative writers that were around too that were great. How many times? There's so many times that people have discussed this, including Stone Cold, that he would bring a script, and he'd bring it to somebody, and it was a filter between McMahon and also the wrestler. I ain't gonna do that, Vince Russo. That's crap. And yet he had a filter. It's like if he put out every single thing that he had, and it would be, or at least most things, it wouldn't be as great. Now we saw that more of those ideas come out in WCW in its later time.
In TNA.
And through TNA. There's things in TNA while he was there, I guess there's things that were pretty decent. I said he had not saying it's always bad, not saying all his ideas were bad. However, he had a filter in the Attitude Era. So you look at it now, McMahon, he has what he obviously looks at his stockholder, look at his product, looked at the network, look at his so many things, so many avenues he has to cross. And of course, what he feels is not always right, but that's the way it is. Not every idea is going to work, but there's a problem with the creativity. There's a problem with creative team, and that's if you don't have the creative, you don't have the story, then you ain't got nothing. So that's they said that's maybe it might look soft to some people, but you have to work within your means of what your advertisers want, as well as your age frames and your audience. I would say goes along with that, and better writers, better scripts, better matches. So
yeah, and like you said, Vince, not McMahon. I almost said McMahon, but Vince Russo had a filter.
Oh yeah,
and he allowed him to filter. Basically, with the filter, we got a lot of the crap out. And from what I've heard from other people that were around in that era, might be something like, I really have this idea and I want to do this. And Vince McMahon's like, that's cool, but we're changing it. And we're changing it to something else. It ended up being gold. And like you said, there's a lot of stuff where he didn't have the filter and it came out in WCW and honestly came out in TNA. Vince Russo would not be able to survive in PG era. His stuff was not good enough to maintain, and with his I'm just going to throw car crash on a TV and hope for the best will not work. You wouldn't be able to keep the advertisers. I mean, I'm going to use this as an example. We just reviewed the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. You think Val Venus from Attitude Era would survive in PG era?
Oh, not even a chance.
And to where WWE would not get calls of we're pulling our ads.
Yeah, not even a chance in any prayer. Not any chance at all. I mean, if he came back to make an appearance, he'd have to be Sean Morley. And, there would not be, which wouldn't mean anything. That wasn't, except for his brief stint he had.
Or actually, the Godfather wouldn't even be able to survive.
No, last time he made an appearance, was it last year? I think it was. He made an appearance backstage, and someone was with him. I forgot who it was anymore. Maybe it was Mark Henry, or I don't even know right now. And I think he turned down the whole tow train thing, if I'm not mistaken. I saw like a little small 1 minute angle in the back, and they were put him on stage. I don't think he was going along with it, but yeah, the Godfather character would not work. And there's, I said, there's a lot of characters back then that it wouldn't work. There's a lot of characters back in the Attitude Era that wouldn't have worked in 1990, 95. But 95, we go. That was a bad year for wrestling. Bad year. It was a whole lot working. But I'm just stating off, different generations, honestly. Just if it looks soft, it has the softness, but it's a different time period. That's all there is to it. Yeah, there's things in society I don't even like that involve this kind of stuff. But once again, can't change everything, so it is what it is. And but hopefully their storyline writing and the creative will get it going, man. They have some good things working out for them, but just they need to 3 hours in Raw is a lot.
Well, that's so okay. You kind of went into that. There's and we kind of highlighted this with the Peacock deal and what they're able to get. I recently read something where I recently read somewhere where basically WWE has to go with less is more now going forward.